Companies are investing millions of dollars in digital real estate in the metaverse. This is either incredibly idiotic or genius. It's either a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity to build a new city beyond the laws of physics and an early start to community-driven digital experiences, or it's a big brand circle jerk in a pixelated elitist playground. Watch my interview with Andrew Kiguel, CEO and co-founder of Tokens.com, a company that invested $2.5 million in a digital plot of land in Decentraland. He puts forward a compelling argument that no matter what, there's no going back from here. Thanks for being with us. I'm joined by Andrew Kiguel, the CEO and co-founder of Tokens.com, an investment firm specializing in cryptocurrency and metaverse real estate acquisition. Great to be with you today.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
It's a real pleasure to be able to talk about this because it's such an abstract concept for so many, and yet real money is being pumped into this. So real estate transactions in the metaverse have increased. They're reaching record highs, and this has generated a lot of attention in the real world. Part of this attention is spurred by the growth and knowledge around unique digital assets known as NFTs or non-fungible tokens. But we're here to talk specifically about the metaverse, which is essentially the market, the virtual market where a lot of this is going down and a lot of this is developing. And depending on who you ask, and this is in part why it's generating so much attention, this is potentially a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
Yeah, so Nicole, the way I would break it down is metaverse technology is going to impact every single type of consumer technology used today. And I can break that down as to how you would think about this as a $1 trillion opportunity. Let's start with social media. Social media is already a $1 trillion market, and the way that it's evolving and the next iteration of social media is going to be the metaverse. That's not just me saying that. Facebook is rebranding to Meta. That's the largest rebrand in history. This is a multi-billion-dollar company that's saying we're leaving the old social media model behind and we're going to transition to what is the new social media model, which is going to be the metaverse. Let's think about gaming. Gaming in itself is probably a $1 trillion business, and that's also migrating to the metaverse via NFTs. It's called play to earn, and it's all happening in these virtual worlds. If you look at things like Axie Infinity is a new gaming company that functions in the metaverse and in crypto that had a run rate revenue last year of $1 billion. This is a new startup company with revenue of $1 billion that's getting investments from the largest VCs in the world. Let's talk about computing, NVIDIA, graphic chips. All of this new stuff that's happening in the metaverse is going to require a new level of computing and graphics. It's going to require a new level of hardware, whether that is, the Oculus goggles or special glasses and different things that can measure the way you move. In thinking about the hardware that's involved here, the graphics card, and you start adding all of these things together, social media, gaming, graphics, computing, and then you start thinking about finance and business conferences that are going to be held in the metaverse, it's really going to touch upon almost every single piece of consumer technology that we use today. And it's when you look at it as a whole mechanism that is growing and where the world is heading, this is going to be, in my opinion, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
And you're really investing and standing behind that because you've well, you not personally, but Tokens.com has paid $2.5 million for a plot of land in Decentraland's fashion district. Is that correct?
Yes. And that parcel of land is an estate. It's a very large parcel, is actually going to be priceless. And let me explain to you why. It is like we have bought a massive piece of property in a metaverse that has finite land available. And so metaverses don't just continue to grow. They have a certain district. They can only be a certain size, and that's programmed into how they work. We've bought a massive estate in the fashion district, and we announced this week that we're going to be hosting a huge fashion show that starts March 24th to 27th. And we are signing up what are going to be some of the biggest brand names in the world to participate in that. I'm going to say right now that I think that is going to be the most widely viewed fashion event live fashion event viewership in history. I think we're going to attract 500,000 people watching that or attending that, unique visitors to that event. And I base that, when you look at other events held in the metaverse, Ariana Grande performed, Travis Scott has performed, and that has attracted millions of people. I think if we can attract some of these very large, iconic brands to do our show, which we're currently negotiating with, and there's going to be virtual walks, there's going to be after parties, there's going to be tents, and we're going to try and give away NFT merch. There's all kinds of really cool things that we're doing. I think you're just going to have, again, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to go in there and want to experience this and participate and see like the clothing lines, people walking through these runways and seeing these avatar models and going to sort of these, DJ after parties. I just think it's going to be an amazingly cool thing.
And I want to touch on that too, because what you're essentially saying is you're not just contributing to building a new city, not limited by physics. I mean, if anyone has seen some clips of Decentraland, you'll see that these buildings they have, things twirling around them, and they're built in such beautiful ways. It looks like a land of dreams. It's a place where imagination can really flourish. But it's not just about the buildings. It's also about the communities. And the communities are super important because they're who are ultimately deciding what these experiences within the metaverse will feel like. So what kind of community are you hoping to then build out there as well?
Yeah, so the community, what's amazing about the metaverses that are existing and are popular today is that that's the entire community that is contributing to what the social experience will be. And let me contrast that with what I would call Web 2.0, where the content has already been created for you. So, if you have kids that play Roblox or Minecraft, they're entering into a world that has been built by a corporation. I think we will wait to see what Facebook ultimately does in the metaverse, but will it be something that is just created by them and then delivered to people where they don't have a chance to participate? What makes Web3 really exciting, and what makes it really exciting what we're creating in the metaverse, is that all the users are participants in how things are going to look. That's why I often make the analogy that this is like buying land in New York 250 years ago, or almost like, the Pilgrims landing in the country and saying, like, how are we going to interact? Where are we going to get food? Where are people going to socialize? These are all the things that are happening today, real time, in the metaverse. And just like a real city or a real community, people are participating and deciding what experiences they want to deliver to people. That might be an amusement park. It might be a storefront. It might be something beautiful, an art gallery. It's really up to the users to decide. And I think that's what separates it out from being just a corporate-driven commerce social media platform.
It's fascinating because I'm sure even hearing this, it's still difficult for people to wrap their mind around why someone would spend so much money on something that doesn't exist. And,
right.
And again, it's separating these tactile experiences from these virtual experiences. And there seems to be a really hard line between, and I'm sure you hear this in the conversations that you have with people as well, but it's either idiotic or genius. And people seem to be in one camp or the other. So what would it take for people to buy in? What would it take for people to begin to wrap their minds around this evolution?
There's some people, certain generation that has a hard time wrapping their minds around something existing that is just digital. And it's the same argument you see with Bitcoin versus gold. Some people are like, if it's not physical, it's not real to me. But I think that the new generation, the generation that's embracing this technology, are people that actually accept that you can have something that is real and exists digitally as well. And so with respect to what we're doing, what I would say to people is, think about it as when you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, every fourth or fifth block that you scroll through is an advertisement. Someone is paying those corporations money to advertise to see the eyeballs that are scrolling through other people's pictures and things. In the metaverse, all that we are doing really is pre-purchasing space that eyeballs are going to look at. Visitor traffic is going to look at and see. We can choose to use that as advertising space. In that case, we're pre-purchasing advertising space in realms that are going to have multi-millions of people wandering around, and we've just pre-purchased the viewership. It might be people that want to deliver immersive experiences, maybe a casino, maybe an amusement park. It could be a brand that wants to advertise or display a new product. It could be a musician that says, I would like to test out music. I would like to do some kind of performances or showcase something that I'm doing, or an artist. We have just purchased or pre-purchased the spots that millions of people are going to be looking at. And so for people who are skeptical, I would make the analogy that, in a sense, we are pre-buying advertising space and event space in areas that are going to have millions of people walking around with their avatars in the very near future.
And then if we were to talk about risks associated with purchasing land in the metaverse, what's a common pushback or argument that you're encountering?
There's two pushbacks that I often hear, which is, number one, is metaverse land infinite? Meaning, like, this is digital, you can just continue to recreate it. And again, I think that's sometimes a generational discussion, which is they don't understand that you can program things in the digital world that are finite, similar to Bitcoin or other tokens, but land in the metaverse is finite. The parcel that we bought, for example, and we own parcels in various metaverses, but the parcel that we bought cannot be copied. There's not like another Rodeo Drive, there's not another Yorkville. We bought it, we own it, it's ours. It can't be, moved somewhere else. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I often hear is, well, if that's the case, why can't everybody just open their own metaverses? And then you just have a bunch of competition. And I think that's a good argument. And similar to how we have various cities around the world, we have various social media platforms. There's Facebook, Instagram, we talked about. There's also Snapchat, there's TikTok, there's various video games. And if I was to look at the future and what I think it's going to look like, is that there's going to be various metaverses. Just like there's various social media platforms, messaging platforms, dating platforms, the metaverse is going to look very similar. You're going to have some that are very focused on music and art. You're going to have some that are very focused on commerce. And I think an area that nobody's really talking about yet is education. And I'm not just talking about education for kids that are in school, right? The kids are not allowed to be in school right now if you're in Ontario, but what about higher learning? If you are a medical professional and the metaverse allows you to go in and digitally connect to a teacher, a professor, with your fellow classmates and interact with a human body, a heart, from a three-dimensional perspective, all different places, and perform digital operations. These are all things that can be done regardless of where you're geographically located. Let's think about workplace safety. I often think about Homer Simpson sitting, at the nuclear power plant where he works, and he doesn't quite know what all the knobs are doing, right? But in the metaverse, you could recreate something like that and have your employees do, work and safety training where you have a replica, you have your physical avatar, test for different emergencies, test for different scenarios, press this, do that. And it's not quite like being there, but it's far more effective as a training tool if you can have a replica of this and have your people and your staff and your employees all over testing different things out and testing different emergency and safety scenarios in the comfort of their homes or their offices without actually having to do it. So the possibilities for various metaverses to exist successfully is huge. I can give you one more example. And this is very cool with the company we're talking to. And what they're doing is basically you can create your own metaverse bubble that very much like a Lego block can connect to other metaverses or disconnect from them. And so I have kids, and maybe my son wants to create a Pokemon metaverse just for him and his friends. My daughter, she loves Ariana Grande. She might connect something that is like more music-based metaverse. And every once in a while, like sort of like little bubbles or Lego blocks, they can come together and people can cross back and forth and interact. And then when they decide to separate, they can separate. And so it'll become very personalized and very community-based. And I think that's sort of the future of where metaverses are going.
Right. And then, of course, and we can't get into it right now, but that NFTs would really come into play there, where maybe those give you access to different metaverses or not.
For sure.
Are we going back from here? Are we at the point of no return where the metaverse will not implode or cease to exist, but rather just continue to evolve and get better? Like, are we there?
Yeah, I don't think we can go back. I was reading yesterday, Samsung just opened a virtual store in Decentraland. Every fashion brand in the world has now created a metaverse strategy, whether it's Gucci, Chanel, Ralph Lauren, Nike, Adidas, I mean, Jimmy Choo. The list is endless right now with respect to the various parties who want to be in the metaverse. I don't think there's a turning back, just like people might have thought social media was a fad when Facebook and MySpace first came out. And today it's just part of our daily lives. Like, you know, people go and you check your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever social media a couple times a day, and it's part of that process. What I do think is that traditional forms of media are dying. And if you look at statistics, this is not going to be sort of your kids staying in and no longer going outside to play. This is really taking away from TV time. And people in the younger generation, they don't get cable. They don't understand why you would pay, $100 a month to access channels that tell you what you're going to watch. And as TV viewership goes down and social media use goes up and video gaming use goes up, that's really the target market that's going to evolve. It's just a next iteration of that technology and how it's used that is going to happen.
And that's part of your long-term vision as well, is to help in the creation, like you said, of these spaces and these places where people can go.
Absolutely. So our view at tokens.com is to be a virtual landlord. So we're going to continue to pre-purchase these digital advertising and event spaces, and we'll look to monetize them. We're building tokens.com Tower in Crypto Valley, and that's going to be a prototype for other people to look at, other corporations to say, yeah, we would like something that looks like that. Could you build it on your property? And we already have a list of over 12 different people that want to advertise in there. And that's podcasters, that is funds, that is lawyers, artists, and different people who say, you know what, you're going to have a lot of people walking around in there. Why don't we set up almost like virtual billboards that you can go in and interact with? And so we'll find ways to monetize that and build some really cool immersive experiences for people that come by, including the fashion show.
And remind us again when the fashion show is?
The fashion show is going to take place March 24th to March 27th in Decentraland. And there'll be more news coming out over the coming weeks about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Nicole.